On approximately this same venue, a group of young Okpe nationals, mostly cooks and stewards here in Lagos, had the consciousness to found the Okpe Union as the mouthpiece of the Okpe ethnic nationality. The following were elected into the first National Executive Council of the Okpe Union. 1. Thomas O. Ake of Mereje, the president. M. A. Ero of Ugoton, vice president. Inspector Odege of Oha, general secretary. J.K. Ogodo of Saple, auditor. Uweriawe Ake of Mereje, treasurer. J.U. Igbirewe of Okwopopo, assistant treasurer. J.E. Uweriawe of Esubi, member. Uko of Jedo, a member. J.E. Ewenwe is also a member. Let us stand up and observe a 60-minute silence in memory of the founding fathers of the Okpe Union. 60 seconds. May their souls continue to rest in perfect peace. Amen. We are gathered here today at the same spot and on the same day of the founding of Okpe Union. The young Okpe nationals who bequeathed us Okpe Union had the vision to establish a vehicle for the articulation, promotion, and defense of Okpe national interest in a multi-ethnic Nigerian mosaic. We are proud to be the beneficiaries of the trust placed on our shoulders to be the mouthpiece of the Okpe nation. The restoration of the Okpe monarchy was made possible by the Okpe Union. Following the assassination of His Royal Majesty Ezeze I, who reigned from 1770 to 1779, Okpe Nation experienced an interregnum for 166 years before a new monarch was crowned on January 1st, 1945. Thanks to the Okpe Union. It is instructive to note that there were then several Okpe leaders who voiced serious trepidation about the restoration of the Okpe monarchy, fearing that it could lead to another dictatorship like that of Ezeze I. It was only after this trepidation was addressed in 1942 that the leaders of Okpe Union continued with their advocacy for the restoration of the Okpe monarchy. Since January 1st, 1945, there has been 3 Orojes of Okpe Kingdom. His Royal Majesty Ezeze II, reigned from 1945 to 1966. His Royal Majesty Aurora I reigned from 1972 to 2004, and His Royal Majesty Orue I has been on the throne since 2006. While the reigns of His Royal Majesty Ezeze II and His Royal Majesty Aurora I ushered in a period of democratic development, peace, and harmony in their relationships with the Okpe Union, the reign of His Royal Majesty Orue I has been drifting systematically towards the dictatorship like that of His Royal Majesty Ezeze I. There are two contending trends in contemporary Okpe polity. Okpe Union represents the first trend that agitates for the recognition of Okpe as a distinct ethnic nationality and not a subgroup of any other ethnic nationality in Nigeria. The second trend, currently championed by His Royal Majesty Orue I, after he opted to abandon his earlier position, regards Okpe as Urobo. While we are here today in Okpe House, Obalande, Lagos, the officially recognized and registered office, headquarters of the Okpe Union, celebrating the 95th anniversary celebration of the Okpe Union, a pack of renegades are said to be in Udogun Hall, the Okpe Palace, claiming to be celebrating the 95th anniversary of the Okpe Union, but are in reality, according to their own posters, celebrating Okpe as, quote, the largest Urobo ethnic nationality, end quote. This is a reflection of the current position of His Royal Majesty Orue I, which for selfish reasons reverted to the British colonial policy that classified Okpe as Urobo in order to secure the support of the Urobos in his aspiration to be the chairman of the Delta State Traditional Rulers Council. He gave this as the reason that he wanted the architect Ralph Carrierin-led National Executive Council of the Okpe Union in 2010 to retract a statement published by the Okpe Union that Okpe was a distinct ethnic nationality. The union then had published that position so as to prepare the ground for a demand for the Delta State government to recognize Okpe as a distinct ethnic nationality under the Delta State Oil Producing Areas Development Commission, the SOPADEC. But that dream was truncated as His Royal Majesty Orue I got the then Unu Okpe to sign a counter-publication in the Vanguard newspapers to the effect that Okpe was Urobo. To put it bluntly, this position is a betrayal of Okpe identity and a betrayal of the Okpe nation. Okpe Union will continue its advocacy of Okpe identity, irrespective of the internal and external hostile forces. We count on the resilience and steadfastness of our members across the branches in Nigeria and in the diaspora, as well as various Okpe groups which identify with the struggle for the recognition of Okpe as a distinct ethnic nationality and language. The panic that enveloped the palace in the past couple of days regarding the listing of our keynote speaker demonstrates the hollowness of the renegades. Highlights of achievements of NEC in 21-25. Notwithstanding the destabilization policy by His Royal Majesty Orowa I and the renegades since 2021, we have made significant progress in the execution of several of our projects. We have brought to the forefront a positive profile of the Okpe ethnic nationality in several fora in Nigeria. We have established the autonomy of the Okpe Union by securing the landmark judgment and ruling of the Federal High Court Lagos and the Federal High Court Abuja, respectively. We contributed financially and morally to the success of the Okpe Cultural Day events of the National Association of Okpe Students in various higher institutions in Delta State and Edo State. We sponsored and secured a number of jobs for 9 deserving Okpe youth. We ensured that the Okpe Nation continuously featured in national and local discourse, which has enabled the Okpe Nation to be respected in the Committee of Ethnic Nationalities. We submitted proposed projects and presented administrative advice to all levels of government since the last general elections in the country and Delta State during our tenure. We ensured the celebration of worthy heroes of the Okpe Union and the Okpe Nation has exemplified in particular in the burial ceremony of the late Okpe hero, Reverend Dr. Charles Osume. Thank you. Of Mereje, who contributed in no small measures to Okpe consciousness and identity in his written works and actions while he was alive. Building a stronger Okpe nation. Okpe Union shall continue to strive for a stronger Okpe nation, frequently referred to as the largest monoethnic nationality in Delta State. It is, however, regrettable that Okpe is arguably the least educated ethnic nationality in Delta State. Okpe Union shall continue to explore ways and means to curtail the educational deficit of Okpe nationals in national and foreign educational institutions. Towards this end, the following shall be pursued vigorously. The teaching of Okpe language in all primary and post-primary education institutions in Okpe Nation, including the privately owned schools as the mother tongue policy of the government of the country does not differentiate between public and private schools. 2, the use of Okpe language in all places of worship in Okpe Nation shall be encouraged. 3, attract investments to the Okpe Nation. 4, liaise with local, state, and federal governments for the recognition of Okpe as a distinct ethnic nationality so that the short-changing of the Okpe nation in the SOPADEC, NDDC project, bursary, slots, etc., will be a thing of the past. 5, organize employment programs for Okpe youth and women. It is our hope that all stakeholders of the Okpe nation shall realize that the Okpe Union means well with all these viewpoints and projections. The unity of Okpe can enable her to overcome many of the seemingly difficult issues. With an open mind, the newly sworn National Executive Council, which I am once again privileged to lead for the next 4 years, promises to foster collaboration and cooperation in the Okpe nation. On the state of the Nigerian nation, the Okpe Union joins other stakeholders of the Nigerian state to reiterate the call for a better structure for Nigerian federalism, which reflects devolution of legislative and governmental powers in favor of the component units. We therefore support the call for state police to help stem the security menace which most areas of the country currently witness. Okpe is one of the more than 400 indigenous ethnic nationalities that constitute the Federal Republic of Nigeria. These indigenous ethnic nationalities, including Okpe, are the core federating units of Nigeria. Thus, like other indigenous ethnic nationalities, Okpe has a voice in determining the future of Nigeria. As the umbrella socioeconomic and non-partisan organization of the Okpe nation, Okpe Union is in close collaboration with other indigenous ethnic nationalities and national organizations, including the Movement for National Reformation, in crafting a new path for the restoration of federalism and good governance in Nigeria. As a framework for a restructured federal Nigeria, Okpe Union makes the following proposal. 1, the creation of homogeneous federating units for the 15 most populous ethnic nationalities that have contiguous boundary. This is very important, that have contiguous boundaries, respectively. These federating units will be 15 homogeneous ethnic-based states for the Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, Ijaw, Kanuri, Ibibio, Okpe, Tiv, etc. Then 2, we propose the creation of a maximum of 15 heterogeneous, that is multi-ethnic federating units for the other ethnic nationalities. An ethnic nationality occupying a defined contiguous boundary in a heterogeneous state shall constitute an autonomous region with due constitutional jurisdictions. It shall also have concurrent jurisdiction with the heterogeneous state over natural resources discovered in its territory, but shall exercise exclusive jurisdiction over primary and secondary education, culture, language, and traditional institutions. The Okpe Union calls for the proposed national population census to be conducted by employing best technology to avoid a repeat of the past, where the outcomes were so politicized that many of the exercises did not command the confidence of many parts of the country and Nigerians as to their credibility. We call on all politicians and those who have been given the opportunity to occupy various political leadership positions all over the country to remember that their primary responsibility is to ensure the welfare of the citizens and stability of the Nigerian polity. They should therefore face this role squarely rather than being distracted or fixated on the next round of elections. There is no basis for the electorate to consider re-electing incumbents who do not deliver on the promises they have made to their constituents, which constitute a social contract. It is with good governance, which in turn translates to the improved well-being of the people, that increases the confidence the people will have in the democratic process, which we must acknowledge has not been very high amongst the people of Nigeria in recent times. Lastly, we admonish the National Assembly not to wait until close to the next general election before embarking on electoral reforms for the polity. In time past, whenever the tinkering of the Electoral Act is delayed and brought too close to another round of general elections, political interests have created tensions which influence the review and amendment processes, that the outcomes usually do not reflect the desire of the electorate for a template that ensures credibility of the electoral process. The Okpe Union therefore calls on the National Assembly and the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to work in synergy to ensure a timeous review of our electoral laws and regulations to ensure that the votes of Nigerians in all parts of the country truly count. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Long live Delta State. Long live the Okpe Nation. Long live the Okpe Union. And long live the Orojo of Okpe.
Any questions? Don't use my proposal.
Hello. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, This is the time for questions and answers. We'll start with Yoruba voice.
Ebiko. Owagba biko Ebiko. The press conference any hour. I answer no. Arekero.
Good afternoon, President General. I have 3 or 4 questions here. The first one, from your press statement, the Orojo of Okpe is not in the same page with you as regards the Okpe Identity Project. Considering its influence in the state, even beyond the state, so how do you think the project can fly? The project can fly, that it can be actualized. Secondly, what is the position of the Okpe politicians and the elites as regards this Okpe identity?
Okay.
So, in the past 4 years of this administration, apart from the achievements you listed, what are the major visible projects that have been attracted to Okpe land? So, any hope of reconciliation between the Okpe at home and Okpe Lagos headquarters?
Well,
Then the last one, sir. What exactly, sir, or what precisely does Okpe Nation stand to benefit from these identity projects?
yes, you have asked very important question. Your questions run across all the areas of our activities. Let me start with the first question you asked regarding our relationship with the Orojo of Okpe. And oh boy, can you hear me? Okay. Your first question is the relationship between the Okpe Union and the Oroje on the question of Okpe identity. I think we made that point very clear in my address. The Oroje of Okpe was elected on the basis of a democratic practice of the Okpe Nation. And the Okpe Nation, one of the pillars of the Okpe democratic structure, has been the Okpe identity. When the Okpe Kingdom was established, it was established as an independent ethnic nationality. It was never established as a subset of any ethnic group. But the British, during their period of colonization, made errors in grouping contiguous groups and classifying them the way they liked. For example, regarding our Okpe nationality, they grouped us with the Urobo. I notice you have a colleague of yours here from Isoko. They grouped Isoko also as Urobo. So Isoko was called Eastern Urobo, and we were called Western Urobo. Because the British had no idea of the differences in these groups. But thank God, a British scholar, an anthropologist, Mr. Dr. R. Bradbury, in his book, The Edo-Speaking Peoples of Southwestern Nigeria, published in 1970, clearly stated that it was for purely administrative purposes that the British classified Okpe with Urobo and Isoko with Urobo. So you see, we were all born into this false city of ethnicity. All of us. My father grew up in that. I was born as an Urobo because of that false city. But we are grateful that the Isoko have shown the way by extricating themselves from this false city. And we, Okpe, are committed to doing that. As we stated in the address, the Orojo of Okpe was committed to doing that. In 2006, 2007, when they came to address the Okpe Union of North America, where I was the founding president, it clearly stated that Okpe was Okpe. But because of personal reasons and interest, because he knew that he would have to get the support of the Urobo OVAs for an election, he now said Okpe was Urobo. I mean, going back to the British policy which he himself had condemned. So we believe that we are on the path of history, we are on the path of success. Over time, the people of Okpe Kingdom will appreciate the struggle which we are engaged in now and lead us to success. Let me just hang on to the Isoko issue one more time. When the late James Otobo in the 40s began the struggle for Isoko independence, he wasn't as old as any of our grandchildren that are here today. He wasn't. I knew him personally. I was in his house in Uzere a couple of times in 2010, 2011. Good, thank you. So when James Otobo and his colleagues started, they had no way of knowing that they would succeed. They were considered radicals. They were young men, but they maintained the course of their belief. So that is what we in Okpe Union are committed to doing, to ensure that we liberate. To ensure that we liberate the Okpe Kingdom from itself. Historically, many slaves don't know that they are slaves. They worship their masters. You've all heard of the Stockholm Syndrome. In North America, we call it house slaves versus field slaves. So this is the mentality we are dealing with in Okpe Kingdom, and it will take time to convince, particularly when some people are saying that what Yoroji has spoken is final. But we remind them that we don't live in the era of the divine rights of kings. We live in a democratic system. Okpe monarchy is not an absolute monarchy. It is a democratically elected monarchy. Every Okpe here, male or female, is a prince and a princess. It is not like some other kingdoms in Delta State or in Edo State where it is a family line. So we cannot be running a democratic system and behave as if we are an absolute monarchy. It can't work. I don't know if I've answered all your questions. But there is your last question, which I will ask my dear brother, the General Secretary, to respond to.
Thank you. Your last question is, Well, you were trying to differentiate between Okpe Union Lagos and Okpe Union in Delta. I live in Sapele. I came down to Lagos here for this program, Okpe Union at 95. I am the General Secretary and I live in Sapele. As a legal practitioner, my office is in Sapele. So there is no Okpe Union Lagos different from Okpe Union in Delta State. Okpe Union Lagos is or Western region is a region which comprises branches of the Okpe Union. You have 4 ruling houses branches, which are for Orue Mereje Lagos branch, for Esezi, that's Esezi Lagos branch. Then we have for Ororo, the Sapele Lagos branch, and for the Ugolo ruling house of Okpe Kingdom, the Ugolo Lagos branch. Then we have Ikorodu branch, Badagry branch, and other areas.
This is a press conference.
So, sorry for the break. Now, so we have Sapele LGA branch in Delta State, Okpe LGA branch in Delta State, Benin branch, Ibadan branch, Abuja branch, Suleja branch, Kano branch, Kaduna branch, all over the country. We have a National Executive Council headed by the President General, Professor Igor Natufe, who superintends all the branches. So what the event here today is not a Lagos event, but a national event. The only headquarters of the Okpe Union, the registered office of the Okpe Union, recognized by the Corporate Affairs Commission, is number 65, Boshalachi Street, Lagos, Obalende, Lagos, which is this building we are. A town is not the headquarters of a registered organization. It is a building. It's an address. So it is this building that is the headquarters of the Okpe Union. Now, there is a provision in the last amendment of the Okpe Union Constitution that the future headquarters shall be built in Delta State. We are hoping that we'll be able to accomplish that in no due course. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary.
Okay, my name is Ese Bosa Iza, and I write for the News Agency of Nigeria. Yes, my question is on the point made in organizing empowerment programs for Okpe youths and women. How has this been, over the years? What have been the success stories?
Well, we intend to launch an empowerment program for our youths and women. And the first thing that we are doing in that regard is a feasibility study to look at the cost and which area. Will it be, for example, in farming? Will it be in engineering? Will it be in mechanics? In various fields that appeal to entrepreneurs, Okpe youths and Okpe women. We are in the process of raising the funds to do that. We have not done that. But what we did in the past regime, about a year or two ago, was to facilitate the employment of 9 Okpe youths, give them jobs in the pipeline security program in Delta State. It was not easy for Okpe Union to be recognized, to get a slot, and to nominate Okpe nationals for this position. So we consider that a victory in a way that recognizes the state of the Okpe Union, at least in Delta State in that regard. So we are working inch by inch to carve avenues that will make it easier for the government now to recognize that yes, the Okpe is really a distinct society.
Thank you, Prof.
We have Okpe youths in post-secondary institutions in Delta State and in Edo State, whose activities we have sponsored for the past 4 years. And this runs into some millions of naira in the past 4 years. Their cultural events, etc. So that also helps to solidify the notion of Okpe identity in those institutions. So our advocacy is across board.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. My name is Tony Okuyeme. I write for New Telegraph newspaper. Well, part of my question, the first question has been answered, more or less, but perhaps I should say you should shed more light on it. To what extent has the union been engaged in the promotion and propagation of Okpe cultural heritage, especially her language and history? We are all aware today our children barely show interest in our culture, and that has become an issue over the years. The other question is related to the first one, and which is that, are there plans to invest in book publication for the use and promotion of Okpe language and history? This also will entail encouraging our youths, stimulating interest in reading culture amongst our youths. It could also entail taking it further, perhaps doing a film or doing films, like we have these indigenous language films in Yoruba and the other cultures, so that our youth begin to find need to also speak their language. The last one is, please, can you shed more light on the position of the union on the issue of resource control? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You said something about publishing of books for the propagation of the Okpe language. Yes, as we are here now, the Okpe language is a subject in the public primary and junior secondary school in Delta State currently. It commenced last September, and some few books, about 3 basic Okpe language books, have already been published. We're still working on many others. We have some resource persons that are continually working on that. When you said something about Yoruba films propagating Yoruba language, I felt very good because I have a foundation myself called Ehensiri Okpe Foundation, which is into the Okpe arts. Just a little above a year ago, we launched an Okpe movie. So you can get it on YouTube, the Ehensiri Okpe Foundation YouTube channel. You'll see Okpe movies there. You also see Okpe, both traditional and gospel songs in that channel. So it's a continuous project. Thank you very much. The President General will continue with the last one, which is on resource control, the position of Okpe Union on resource control. Thank you. And for history books, for history materials on Okpe, this is the work of our Okpe hero, late Reverend Dr. Charles Osime. Incidentally, the President General has approved that a number of copies be given free of charge to all those in attendance to this ceremony. So this is a history of Okpe people, the Okpe people, second edition by the late Reverend Dr. Charles Reraina Osume. So there are many materials. I have written a small one myself titled Okpe Identity and Development in the 21st Century. We'll get some copies to the registered office here so that anybody can get that material too. So the President General will talk on Okpe Union, the position of Okpe Union on resource control. Thank you.
Well, resource control, when you look back, the politics of resource control, I remember the early days of the Obasanjo regime, whether it is onshore or offshore, and the offshore-onshore dichotomy. And the governor of our state at that time, Chief James Ibori, was a strong advocate of resource control. Okpe Union subscribes to the politics of resource control. We believe that each ethnic nationality should be the owner of resources within its boundaries. That is a fundamental question in any legitimate federal state. You may even go further and say that if an oil well is found in your compound, it is your property. It's not that of the state. In a federal system, it's your property. You know. So we believe in that. We have over 100 oil and gas wells in Okpe land, which unfortunately, because of the falsity of ethnic affiliations, these oil wells and gas wells are counted as Urobo property. Again, part of our problem in looking at the issue of Okpe identity. So it cuts across all areas, whether it is in language, history, or natural resources.
Prof, thank you, sir.
Mr. President, gentlemen of the press, I just want to make some contribution on this issue of Okpe identity. The identity of a people is fundamental to their emancipation. In fact, if you look at the Bible itself, the issue of identity, of who we are, was the reason Jesus Christ came to the earth. Each time, if you follow scriptures, each time Jesus Christ tried to introduce man as a divinity, they tried to stone him. If you look at Psalm 82, verses 5 to 7, it said, I say you all are gods. All of you are children of the Most High. But because you do not know, you will die like mere men. So the issue of identity is fundamental. I don't know why our brothers are apprehensive of Okpe establishing itself as a nationality. If you go to Google and look at the definition of ethnic nationality, it is well defined there. It's a people that share a common ancestry. We do not share a common ancestry with the Urobo people. It further defined the people that share the same language. We do not share the same language with the Urobos. If you speak Okpe in the midst of the Urobo people, They will say you are speaking in tongues. They don't understand what you are saying. You see, all this question of Okpe Usurobo, it's for political adventure, political gains, because they want to project Urobo as a large ethnic nationality. So they use Okpe to feather their nest. Unfortunately, whatever comes to the geographical space that is being referred to as Delta Central today is seen as an Urobo matter. The Okpe people are treated as second-class citizens within that space. You see, these are issues. Somebody raised issue there, and one of you asked question, what have we achieved so far? As long as we remain tied to the apron of Urobo, we will not achieve anything. We need to let them know. With our friendly neighbors, the Urobos are our friendly neighbors. We are not quarreling. We intermarry. So I don't see the reason for this apprehension. They should just let us be. That's all we are asking for.
Good afternoon. I'm Ngozi from Daily Independent. So my question, you talked about the Okpe identity like the last speaker said about Okpe. What are the things the union seeking for? And do Okpe people feel marginalized?
Okay.
Hello, sir.
And
Just take this last question so that we don't go.
you see, let me tell you something. There is a pecking order. There is a pecking order in the state as I speak to you. Every time something good comes to the Delta Central, which is regarded as Urobo as we talk, there is a pecking order where these things have to go first to the Ugele people. That's the Urobo people. Then the next in the pecking order are the Etio people, the Akmon people. The Okpes, who are majority in the whole arrangement, are the least in that pecking order. You could see it even when the contest for the governorship thing was on. There was a gang up. They didn't want an Okpe person to be the governor of the state. It took a lot of canvassing and the grace of God for an Okpe person to emerge as governor of the state. And as I talk to you today, that position is still being contested by those who think they are born to rule the Delta Central. I dare say that because I am involved in politics too. So I must tell you what is going on.
Okay, then directly to what this agitation seeks to achieve. You asked the question. Just a demonstration of it. The Sopadek means the Delta State Oil Producing Areas Development Commission. As we are speaking here, there is a registration for the Sopadek bursary ongoing. And the Sopadek law recognizes just previously five ethnic groups. Okay, 4 ethnic groups. Urobo, Ijo, Ichakiri, Isoko, and Ndokwa. Now, Ika with just some 2 or 3 oil wells has been recognized. The last amendment included Ika as a Desopadek ethnic nationality. Look at how bursary laws are shared by the commission. Ijo, 1,500 budget slots. Ichekiri, 1,500. Isoko, 1,500. Udokwa, 1,500. Ika, 1,500. Urobo, 3,000. Okpe, go and take yours from Urobo. That is the current position, and in many of the exercises, Okpe students don't get more than 70, 100, 150. And this is an area of 2 local government areas and some few communities outside these 2 local government areas with over 100 oil and gas wells. As I'm talking to you, there is not even one project in Ugbore district which has about 35 oil wells since the establishment of the SOPADEC. So these are just few examples. You get the point. Unfortunately, because of personal interest, some politicians and traditional leaders have decided to gang up against the Okpe people so that the Okpe people will be continually changed. It is enough. Okpe Union can no longer keep quiet. We must take this matter by the horns. The bull must be taken by the horns on this matter. Thank you.
My name is Okori the Senior from Isoko Miro. This question I want to ask her, I've asked you, I think, 2 years ago. The agitation for the recognition of Okpe as a distinct ethnic nationality by the Okpe Union has been on for some time now. Now the question is, without more ado, what are the steps being taken by your administration to bring in the political class so that it can go through a legislative process just as it was done during the time of Isoko emancipation from Urobo, which eventually came to pass in 1963. I'm asking this question because you have members of Okpe who are members of Delta State House of Assembly. And vividly, I remember that during the time of Chief J. Otobo, whom you quietly mentioned here, I started that agitation in 1951 in Western House of Assembly. And through paramilitary aids and other things, and when Midwestern region was created in 1963, Osadebe being the premier, and of course in 1963, October 7, Isoko was recognized linguistically, culturally, and administratively. And today Isoko is recognized. So what are your efforts now? Bringing in the political class.
Well, let us get the full historical background on how Isoko got its liberation. Because you somehow simplified it. But the audience should know the intricacies behind that simplicity. With Dennis Osadebe as the premier elect, 3 issues were discussed in that formation of Bendel or Midwest region. Where will the capital be? Who will produce the governor? And who will produce the premier? Now, the capital was considered to Benin because of the influence and power of the Akenzwa II, who was in fact a huge leader of the Midwest movement. The ancients the ancients, being the leading political party, had Dennis Osadebe as the leader, so it was considered that the Igbos, if you want to call them that, should produce the premier. But before the question of who will get the capital, Saple was a very strong candidate for the capital. Sapele was the only city, grade 2 city. Benin was grade 3 city. Forget about the historical significance of Benin. But in terms of status of townshiphood in Nigeria, Sapele was way ahead of Benin in categorization. And Sapele being grouped as part of the Urobo, for some very difficult reasons to understand sometimes how people make choices. The Urobo said they opted to be governor. They believe that being governor is more important than being the capital. Now, recall that before the Midwest referendum, my uncle worked for James Otobo with the Midwest People's Front in Sapele. James Otobo was representing Urobo East in the Western House of Assembly. And the question now was here, who will be the deputy premier to Osadebe? Will it be Urobo, since Benin has the capital, and Urobo already has the governor, Marere? Then, it was then that James Otobo reminded Azikiwe that we are Isoko, we are not Urobo. That was the point, that was the time that Isoko got that little window which they craftily exploited. Then they said, okay, because he was saying, Urobo now is the governor, but we are not Urobo, we are Isoko, so we must be the deputy governor. That was, the deputy premier. So that was the logic that James Otobo used, and it was then that Isoko got their freedom. So that is the background to your simplicity. You want to add a point?
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, so your question was actually what the Okpe Union is doing to achieve Okpe identity. To bring in the political class. Thank you. I just want to use 30 seconds, please. Okay, 1 minute to say something here. One of the foremost leaders of the Okpe people was the late David Dafinone. In the year 2000, there was an Okpe national conference at the palace of the Oriji of Okpe in Orerekpe. In that conference, that was just a few months after the election of James Onanefe Ebori as governor of Delta State. In that conference, the late Okpaga of Okpe Kingdom, Chief Binije, not Napoleon, Patrick Binije, a former House of Rep member, that's one of the foremost politicians in Okpe land, moved the motion. I was there as a final year law student in the University of Benin. They attended that conference. In fact, I was part of the communique drafting committee. I contributed at that time. He moved the motion that Okpe should express it to the world that they were a distinct ethnic nationality. He then lamented how the Okpe nation was suffering because of the toga of Urobo umbrella. It was seconded. It was to be included that way in that communique, but it was Chief Dafinone that amended that motion. He amended it in this way, that the Okpe nation would reassess the political union between Okpe and Urobo. That was the amendment he gave, and that was what carried the day. I gave this historical background so that we would know the peculiar position that many politicians think of themselves. They are scared. But our leader here has said there is no reason to be scared. Political alliances is not based on ethnicity. In 1993, the Isokos voted along with Urobo, in spite of the fact that the Isokos did not consider themselves as Urobos. So the Okpe nation should continue this agitation and take a position with the Okpe Union so that the dividends, the true dividends of economic emancipation will come to the Okpe people. Thank you.
I was just mandated to give the vote of thanks. So on behalf of the present President General, all the national ESCOs present, the past ESCOs, ex-official members, elders in the House, the women, and members of the Board of Trustees, and every other person present. I want to say a big thank you for making yourself present. I want to thank those that took time to answer questions. I believe this was a time of enlightenment for every one of us. So we want to thank every one of us for attending. Thank you very much.